Hey everybody and welcome in. I am Matt Camp, and sometimes you see me flying solo here today, but not the case because one of the fastest rising stars anywhere in the world, who is in the midst right now of his third Best of the Super Juniors tournament in New Japan Pro Wrestling, Kevin Knight is joining me here today. You have seen him take AEW by storm, not only by himself, but alongside Speedball Mike Bailey, and luckily enough, he is here with me from Japan, giving us a little time on a rare bit of off time. So, Kevin, welcome in. How are you doing? I'm not even going to say a time because we're all over the place, but how are you doing in the midst of your third Best of the Super Juniors?
Man, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling healthy, feeling wealthy. It was a tough start to beginning, but we're making our way back to the top. We're making our way back to the top. So I'm feeling good.
You and I have known of your career for quite some time. You've been one of the hotter I don't want to say unsigned names, but names that we haven't seen appear in AEW, don't get to see appear on our televisions on a weekly basis. And I know you've had success in other promotions, but you end up in AEW, and that first night, we're going to get to your Best of Super Juniors, but I continue to tell people, go look at Kevin Knight's cage match from like the last month and a half and see everything that you have done in that period of time. We'll go into it in a little bit of detail here, but what has this last month and a half been like, from wrestling Jay White on Collision to being, signed to, we'll get into it a little detail, but what has this last month and a half been like? Because this is, for some people, this is a 3-year career you've crammed into the last month and a half.
Man, I think it just goes to the classic saying where preparation meets opportunity. That's where success comes. And I feel like I've been doing the same exact thing I've been doing for years now. And it's just been on a bigger stage, or a stage where people is more easily accessible. So it's been a journey. When you're actually doing it, it just feels like just work, just another day at the office. So that's how I see it. Just another day at the office.
All right, so what I'm going to show everybody right now is what your career has looked like here. So I know you can see this too. You go back to the end of March, and you wrestle Jay White on Collision. We see that there, and you don't come away with the victory, but you impress so many people, Jay included. Now, unfortunately, Jay gets hurt in that match. So days later, not only do you find yourself all elite, you find yourself on Dynamite. You then find yourself taking on Will Ospreay because now you're in the Owen. What was that week starting like? And by the time you finish that week, you're wrestling Will Ospreay on pay per view.
Oh man, it was a blur. I thought it was a rib, as they say. I thought it was a joke when they told me that stuff. But the Jet is always ready for any opportunity that I got in front of me. So I was already ready. I put the work in, and getting in the ring with Jay and Osprey is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So it was just like I manifested it, I feel like, and it came to fruition, and I feel like I did what I was supposed to do. Obviously, didn't come out to win like I would hope to, but I feel like I left my landmark, left my stain in the game, and people are going to keep wanting to see me. So
And I bring that all up, and you know, you look at the run that you had that week against Jay. You're ending up signed. You're in there a couple days later, tagging with Will against Blake Christian, Lee Johnson. A few days after that, you're wrestling Will Ospreay in Philadelphia to open up Dynasty. And I want to stop right there because we know where Will's at right now, right? I mean, you guys opened the tournament. He's wrestling Hangman this weekend for a chance to go to All In for that World Championship. Um, you and Will being in there, there can be hype for that for weeks. You had days. How do you take that all in of wrestling, arguably the best wrestler in the world right now, on pay per view in a very prestigious tournament and in a wonderful wrestling city like Philadelphia?
man, me and Philly have a lot of history. Whether it was going in the 2300 arena with the New Japan shows, or TNA back in the day. So I feel like so many people there may have known me from before. And again, it's just where preparation meets opportunity. And I've been watching Will for a long time. Been wanting to get in there and work with him for a long time. So it was just, the stars aligned. And I just wanted to show my best and so that I can keep up with the best in the world. So I think I did that. And I just want to keep proving that I belong, and just showing that I am exactly who I say I am. And that's Two Fly. So it was dope. It
No
was
doubt
dope.
about that. And to take over the wrestling world like you did in that week, and to not shy away from anything, or the magnitude of what that week was, I think has really captured so many people who hadn't seen you before in some of those previous stops. Now, I do have to mention this because I got to ask you. You were away when this got announced, but Kev, we're going to Philadelphia at the end of
Ooh,
August and September for Dynamites and Collision at the 2300 Arena. As you said, you know how important that place is, but I think I don't know if fans necessarily know sometimes when this stuff gets announced. You don't necessarily know, we don't necessarily know, but when you see that get announced, especially as you're across the world, and the history and even the recent history in Philadelphia, what was your reaction to seeing that residency announced?
man, it's gonna be a dope time. And I don't know how many dates it's gonna be for that residency, but each and every city, each and every show is gonna be dope because Philly has an unmatched energy that they bring to every single show. So I'm just happy to be able to be in that arena and just feel the energy. We feed off of each other. Pro wrestling is a symbiotic relationship, so it'll be dope. It'll be dope.
I can't wait for it. As we said, you can see right here, we are going to be in the Philadelphia area, in South Philly, starting on August 27th, running through September 11th for Dynamite and Collision. Three shows of those each, plus ROH Death Before Dishonor on September 5th. So there's so much there. 7 shows are coming your way. We're going to be in Chicago. But Kevin, I'll go back to you here. And after you have the match with Osprey, um, 3 days later, even though you didn't win, you're wrestling for $400,000. And I don't think a lot of people get that opportunity. You've had opportunities to wrestle for $400,000 shared and $100,000 in the span of a month. So does that just really tell you how great of a man Tony Khan is to work for, where he's putting $500,000 up just for you in the span of a month?
Man, he's generous. He's generous to say the least. And we definitely need that in this economy. You know what I'm saying? So it was dope to be able to compete and not only win that first for $400 total shared. And I said I was gonna go to Magic City. I still, in this time span of what it's been, 2 months, a month, I've been home for maybe a total of like 5, 6 days. So I haven't had a chance to really enjoy my money like I said I was. So when I do, just know it's up. It'll be a time for sure.
Now, I want to go back to that match because obviously money on the line is one thing, but um, listen, whether it's because of who he's faced, because of his attitude, because of the fact that he is follically challenged, Ricochet has found a lot of enemies in a very short period of time, really since the Continental Classic. But I go back to that match, all 80 you, and flying all over the place. Before we
Man,
talk about what's going on here, is there anything better than getting to be part of a moment that's just fun like that?
man, you see me rubbing my hands like Birdman. We ready for it because he had it coming. Like you said, Ricochet's made enemies wherever he's gone in AEW. So it was more than a pleasure to shine up that bald head real quick. So it was a pleasure, especially with money on the line.
Yeah, money on the line, 400 grand. But Ricochet's got, of course, we're going to see him and Mark Briscoe this weekend in a stretcher match. And I know you're looking forward to that because that's the kind of match where you can probably enjoy it because Mark Briscoe, he's going to have fun, I think, with Ricochet. And I think he's going to be representing a lot of us out there who would like to see Ricochet, maybe leave on a stretcher this weekend.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. Last time they had a one-on-one, Mark Briscoe came away with that win, and Ricochet was a little salty afterwards, and I had to come out there and regulate a little bit. But I think Mark Briscoe can hold his own. He's a vet in the game. He's somebody we all look up to. And he's definitely going to do the thing. And I definitely feel like Ricochet has it coming for him, whether it's from his Twitter antics, whether it's from what he does on TV, whether it's just his real life personality. This is not a cool guy. So it's like he has so many things going against him.
I want to flip back over to your run since then, though, because you continue on and you're in there now. As we look ahead, you find yourself getting mixed up with the Elite, and you find yourself in a match with Kenny Omega and Mark Briscoe and Speedball. And the week before, you had tagged, as we see, against the Young Bucks. You didn't have, and there's wins here against AR Fox, there's wins here against Lance Archer. Did it help you to just be like going, 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 going? Because to me, you were one of the busiest guys before you left for the Best of the Super Juniors. Did it help you acclimate to AEW faster?
Oh, most definitely. It's chaotic backstage, and it kind of helped me with my previous experience with Best of Super Juniors and just wrestling Japan. Period. Just knowing how to wrestle in any single town against any opponent. Coming in with a game plan. So the wrestling is really the easy part. I've gotten a chance to watch the EVPs a lot. Gotten a chance to obviously watch Okada and Ricochet a lot, so I know their game. So I come in there with a strategy, and man, just wanted to step into the ring with them and just show them who I am. So they've probably never seen too much tape on me, so they're surprised anytime they get in the ring and see like, oh, this guy is the real deal. So
Before you leave, and I don't know if there's a better way to test yourself before you head to the Best of the Super Juniors. You wrestle Okada on 2 weeks ago in a Continental title eliminator. Now, you did not come out on top, and that is nothing to sneeze at because you're talking about one of the great. Go ahead. I know.
it's an asterisk next to that loss.
Please.
It's an asterisk next to that loss because Farouche was salty. He didn't win that 100K from the week before, so he had to come out there and. They say you mess with the bull, you get the horns, but I'm calling BS on that one because you know what I'm saying. If he was a real man, he would have tried to attack me from mano y mano, not from behind. So, he softened me up for Okada. Okada, had me a little damaged. But I still went out there and did my best. Almost, I feel like if I'm fully healthy, I feel confident enough to put my powers to the test against the almighty Okada. The fact that I did last that long after being, thrown to the steps and barricade, I feel like it's a testament to my true strength and will and everything.
I want to go back to that, and we'll talk about Rush in a second. But this here, I don't know if it got enough love. I want you to just kind of lay out here for a second because the sound that comes from what's about to happen is as genuine as it gets here, as you're battling here with Okada. How the hell did you do that, man?
Hey, man, some people say CGI, some people say it might be AI. It comes with just years and years of training. And of course, years of watching the Rainmaker himself go for that move. I've scoped it out, I've scouted it, and I was like, he's not going to get me on that one, at least. So I think that one coming a mile away, and I just used my powers and just tried to one up him. I thought it was my time, my window, but my neck was hurting just a little bit too much from Roos earlier, and couldn't escape it.
When you are in these kind of matches, and I mean, right there, you being able to do that kind of, but you're banged up, and you're. Is it hard to not look ahead, or is it hard to go? Hell, I got another massive tournament coming my way, but I also have this opportunity against one of the greatest professional wrestlers in the world. How do you kind of focus on one while still looking ahead to the other? And I don't know if there's even a thought in the head of, I got to save my body. I got a grueling tournament coming up in the next month.
Hey, this is what we signed up for. So I know going into these matches, there's a risk of getting some type of injury or a risk of, not being able to walk out the same that I walked in. So I take every match step by step. I don't look ahead to the end. Oh man, you see Okada doing this thing. I don't ever uh, underestimate or overlook anything. It's every day, week by week, match by match, and I'm just in there looking to do my best. And be as fly as we could be as best we can.
You've been in there, obviously, because for those that don't know, you were in New Japan and have been part of New Japan before signing with AEW and a couple years of Best of Super Juniors. But when you get in there with someone like Okada, who is at a different portion of his career than where he was at New Japan, what do you learn from a match like that?
Um, Crowd control, pacing, just knowing how to be confident in every movement that you do. Whatever you do it 100% and let it simmer, let it cook, let the crowd digest everything you just did. And Okada, he saw me get beat up before I even stepped in the ring. So as soon as I stepped in the ring, he tried to capitalize on it. Jumping on me, hitting, targeting my neck with a DDT because he's smart. So just knowing how to capitalize on opportunities, to be honest, Okada is obviously one of the goats. So being in there with him is it's a great learning experience, of course.
We're about 11, 12 days into the 32nd Best of the Super Juniors tournament. Started on May 10th. And for those that don't know, similar to cruiserweights, stateside, this is a tournament that has gone on for many, many years, and absolute greats have been launched in this tournament. You think about what Jushin Thunder Liger has done in this tournament. You think about a Will Ospreay. You think about your tag team partner here and there in Kushida and what he's done in this tournament. What Hiromu Takahashi. I still remember when he upset Kushida in one of his first tournaments, and what that does and what that launches. Kenny Omega was part of this tournament. Ricochet was part of this tournament. So this is your third year in it. You've won a slow start, but you've won a couple of matches, and we'll talk about a very important win you had to give someone their first loss in a second. But heading in now to your third Best of the Super Juniors, what were your expectations for year one, and how has it changed? Not only because you want to win, but what you want to accomplish in a tournament like this, now it being your third.
Man, every single year the goal is the same: to win, come out, being the top guy to be able to challenge for that junior heavyweight championship. The first couple of times obviously didn't succeed, and this third time it's like, okay, I'm not a rookie anymore. I've done this tour schedule a few times, so I know what my body's gonna feel like. It's a war of attrition. So really, just keeping your body, your mind, and spirit in line, and just making sure that you can just make it to the end. And of course, we started out slow, but we're picking it back up.
Oh yeah, and I want to get into that because you posted this on social media about last week, a few days ago, and it was this picture of you and Nick Wayne. And that is because we got to see this happen 6 years later to say, may the story continue. Now, for those that don't know, you defeated Nick, and you gave Nick his first loss in this year's Best of the Super Juniors. Talk to me. Tell me what it's like to head into a match like that where it's his first tournament, but he's rolling. Is the pressure more on you because you've done it for a couple of years, or did you think it was more on him to stay on top of the standings?
I definitely think the pressure was more on me, more so because I've been through this tour a couple of times. I've wrestled in New Japan plenty of times. In New Japan's eyes, he's new. You know what I mean? Of course, he's a champion, or well respected champion in AEW, but he's 19. He's a 10-year veteran at 19. That's kind of crazy. But who better to give him his first loss in New Japan than the Jet, the one that knows him better than anybody. I've been training with that guy since he was like 12, 13 years old when I first stepped into the business. So I know his ins and outs. I know what he likes to go for. I know what he doesn't like. So I'm not going to say easy, but it just brought me back to that moment right there. I think that was in Canada in 2019.
I was going to ask you, that is a moment where I don't think anybody's going to think, seeing you two guys, that they wrestled 5 years ago. I mean, like that's to me is wild and shows how far both of you have come. And I know he's 20 years old and this 19 years old and this ridiculous prodigy, but what was that match like 5 years ago?
Oh man, it was dope. Just as dope as it was a couple of days ago, it was back then. Different standards, of course. I think at this point, I'm 5, 6 months into the business. I think this is his first or second year being on shows. So this is in front of, maybe 100 people at Agra Fair is what they call it. So it's a family festival. And we're just going out there just trying to do our best in front of people that don't know too much about wrestling. And now we're doing it 5, 6 years later in front of the most prestigious tournaments in this company. So it's like, man, it's coming full circle. So it's still like wrestling. When we got in there and locked up, it was like old times. It's how we used to train in the garage and everything. But now it's in front of a bigger scale. So there's more at stake. We got to lay the strikes in this a little bit more because I need them to feel me, let them know it's not a game. You know.
And to me, that's just something exciting because now you've defeated him. But there might be something to then bring back around, and I'm not the guy that gets to say these things that they happen. But he is the ROH television champion. So, Kev, you got to win over him now. Is that
Of
something that
course,
might be in your sights?
of course. And a couple months ago, me and Fox had a fight for the number one contendership for this title anyway. And I think this is a great way to bring that back to attention, bring that back to the spotlight. That I did just get to your Ring of Honor TV champion their first loss, so like we gotta pay that off.
And you
We
guys
gotta
had
lead
that
them back.
that draw, of course, back in February.
Yes.
So I love that. And by the way, Fox has really kind of taken things by storm himself in different tag matches and in different singles matches. Him and Kyle Fletcher were in there. You know how much he has meant to the independent world and to professional wrestling as a whole. How cool is it to get in there with him and then to kind of see him get the spotlight in the last couple of months?
Yeah, Fox is an anomaly. And anybody in the business knows that. They know how special he is. They know he birthed the generation that he does, the style that he does. His bag is so deep, and he's so creative. He's so creative. So I'm glad to see him getting this shine and everything. And Fox is definitely one of those ones. Maybe one day we can run it back with bigger stakes and everything, and he'll see the generation that he did birth, and that we could do it a lot. I ain't gonna say a lot better, but just so we can see him in the mirror and just bring it to another level.
It's just the evolution of everything. And it's not a
Yeah.
disrespect thing at all. It's this is what this guy has done for us, and now I'd love to be able to get in there with him. And it's cool to see him kind of get those flowers. You wrestled, I think, the two matches after him in Philadelphia on Dynasty. They opened that show in that 6 man on 0 Hour, and they lit the place on fire. When you
Standing
hear that,
ovation.
right, and you know that crowd's going to be big, but you're going out there in a couple matches, and you followed up the return of Anthony Bowens, and you're opening the show. Is that like, are you paying attention to that? Knowing, even though it's your first pay per view for AEW, are you going, ah, that's what we want to hear tonight?
Of course, of course. If anything, it gets me more pumped up. People may feel the pressure or whatever, but I take that pressure. It's a privilege. You know what I mean? Pressure makes diamonds. And, when you're a diamond in the rough, you got to shine. You got to do what you're supposed to do. I just take it as I'm there for a reason, and I'm just going to make the most out of that opportunity. So it's no extra stress on me.
I know you got to rest up here. I want to ask you about somebody though, because one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, someone who really caught my eye when I started watching New Japan regularly, is Kushida. I got to work with him, later on, but someone who I don't ever think, maybe in his first time around, I don't know if he got the credit, and maybe that's because you have guys like Okada and Kenny and these people lighting up the world. But what did you know of Kushida before you tagged with him, and what have you taken from your time tagging with him? And you are former two-time junior heavyweight tag team champions. You're wearing the intergalactic jet shitter shirts right now. Um, I don't I'm a, like I said, Kushida is such an unbelievable talent to me. What has it been like learning from him, tagging with him, and now being in the same tournament with him again?
Man, the biggest thing I could take away from him is attention to details. That man has a passion for the business, and just knowing the little things that he looks for, knowing the little things that you do and don't do, um, any openings that you see in your opponent, how you act, how you present yourself as a champion. He's been through it. He's done it all. He's a two-time Best of Super Junior winner, so he knows how to make it through a full tournament. He's a multi-time tag team champion, multi-time junior heavyweight champion, a cruiserweight champion. So he's won titles anywhere he's been. A Ring of Honor TV champion. So he knows and understands the mentality and the work ethic that you need to have to be able to make it. So just being next to him, just rubbing shoulders with him is like it's a blessing because we may not speak much of the same language, but we understand each other's energy, and I think that's the most beautiful part. We've talked a lot about his life before wrestling, and that man, he is very spiritually inclined. He speaks in a lot of metaphors. Oh, if you ever see the subtitles of his backstage comments, he's very, very, very spiritually inclined and knows um, just how to progress in life. Very creative, and he's always cracking jokes. Always has a smile on his face, and just always wanting to be different. So it's just crazy to pick his mind and just see how similar we are, even though we're obviously from different generations, different cultures, different places in the world, but we can still connect on this level. So it's so dope that we understand each other. Keep watching, keep watching. It's a long tournament. I think there's 3 or 4 more matches, and we're gonna make this way. We're gonna make the way to the top of this division, and then once we do, we got a lot of business to settle once we get back to the states at AEW. Just as Ricochet got a lot of ops, me and Speedball been getting a lot of attention and pissing a lot of people off. I don't know if it's because of the position we've been put in or whatever it may be, but it's a long laundry list of who we got to get to. So I'm waiting for that opportunity to really do what we're supposed to do.